Are you ready for drama school? We spend so much time focusing on speech choices and school applications and self-tapes and auditions and recalls and do they like me and very important stuff, of course, but we don't really stop to ask ourselves the question, is this right for me and am I ready for it? Now look, this is not a video that is trying to deter you away from training, not in the slightest. I'm a massive advocate for training. I think it's amazing. No, it's not the only way to go into the industry. Of course it's not. There are loads of successful people that have not trained, friends of mine included. But let us not forget that training is tough. So you gotta feel ready for it. And if you believe that you feel ready for it, brilliant, go for it. I would still encourage you, watch the entire video, continue to ask yourself that question and be objective, really be confronting with yourself about it. And if you're feeling slightly hesitant, then that might be a really good indication to get curious about, okay, well, what's actually going on? Is this year going to be the year for me? That's all. Now, I auditioned and got in on the first year that I applied. That's a rarity. That's more of the exception to the rule than the rule itself. But I auditioned and got in when I was 18, young. Super young. And that meant that I was moving from a small town in Scotland down to London, the most expensive and largest city in the UK, to study for 3 years with people that I didn't know in an environment that I didn't know, away from friends and family and a structure that I understood. But I knew that I was ready for it. So if this is you, great, but still, watch the video. Now, I mention this a lot in my videos. And I'm going to keep repeating it until I am blue in the face or until someone shoots me in the face. Training is tough. It is hard. It is physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually draining. It is demanding. It really, really is. It was the best years of my life, hands down. I loved my training so much. It's rewarding and hilarious, and you meet beautiful people along the way, but you are going to be knackered most days in more ways than just physically knackered and in need of a bit of a nap. You are going to be drained. You're also going to be working at a level that you will feel intimidated by. It is challenging. It is designed to be challenging. It is designed to confront you, to challenge you in order that you grow. And it's not for everyone, and it's certainly not for everyone at every single stage that they are at within their life. So maybe this year is not for you, maybe you're going to be ready next year. That's kind of what I mean. So you really got to be ready for this. And these are just a few things that I think that you should be questioning, asking yourself and getting curious about when you're confronted with the idea of, am I ready to train? The first one is, do I have any life experience outside of education? Now, I graduated from high school at 17, and then I began auditioning after I'd graduated, and I got into drama school, and I went when I was 18, and then very shortly after beginning the first term of drama school, I turned 19. Now, that is still pretty young for drama school standard, but I had a little bit of time out of education. I was working, I was meeting new people, I was having experiences. I wasn't straight out of high school and straight into another education system. So that actually really helped me with my readiness to go into drama school training. I was mindfully going into education, having had some time outside of it. And something that I find a lot when I am teaching at drama schools, especially with people who have never been out of the education system, i.e. they've gone from nursery through to primary school, through to high school, college, and then on to drama school. If they've never had any time outside of education apart from holidays, then something that they have this tendency of struggling with is that they're still in exam mode. They're still trying to get the answer right. And sadly, that is what our school system is set up to do. It's mindless regurgitation of facts, getting top marks in exams, and maybe playing on the rugby team. But it's so much more about league tables and exam results, everything on paper, as opposed to discovery and curiosity and creativity. It's less about finding answers within you and more finding answers on paper, taking them and then putting them on a different piece of paper. And it can be really difficult shifting from that mode into drama school because it's all about finding the answers for yourself. It's all about understanding that it is subjective and there are no right answers. It's about discovery, it's about creativity, and it's about failure. It's about risking and daring yourself to actually fall, to actually fail at something in order that you grow, in order that you learn, because there isn't a right and a wrong way of doing it. It's about finding truth and excitement and challenge and all of that beautiful stuff that we try to stifle out of people when they're in a high school system. And if you're not ready for that development of bravery, if you're not ready to fail and make a fool of yourself and not know the answer, if you're not prepared to do things that are outside of dictated outcomes, then maybe think about taking a bit of time out of the education system, go out into the world and get a bit of life experience before you wish to return to training. Also, education is quite sheltered. Audition panels often talk about applicants going, oh, they're great, they really are, but they're very green, they're very naive. They need to go and get a little bit of life experience. You know, travel the world, get your heart broken, have an argument with someone, get lost in a foreign city. Like, you know, all of the stuff that is dangerous, but character building. Because all of that stuff fleshes you out as a human being. You start to get lived experience of the world that you can then take and propel into your actor training, into your development of other characters. But if all you know is the school system, all you know is your hometown and the people that you grew up alongside, you have one perspective of the world and that is it. Of actually venturing out of your comfort zone into the world that you don't quite know, to have struggle, to have disappointment, to have exhilarating and exciting experiences, things that are life affirming and life changing. They're the things that are going to shift you out of this green and naive education based mindset and into something that we can actually go, ooh, they're ready for training. Now, there is nothing stopping you taking a gap year. There's nothing stopping you spending a whole year working, or just taking the time out to truly analyze what you wish to do without knowing that you have to sit an exam and get a grade and do this and do that. When those demands are not there, you can actually sit with yourself, understanding, what do I actually want here? Because there's nothing worse than going into drama school training accidentally. Are you financially ready to go to drama school? No, you do not need to be rich. No, you do not need to be middle class or upper class or landed gentry. You don't. It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that our understanding of going to university, or our understanding of university students, is that, yeah, for the most part, they're kind of strapped for cash. They're uni students. We get that. That's an understandable phenomenon that we have within our system. And yes, there are student loans and maintenance grants and all of that kind of stuff that can sustain you throughout training. But drama school training is not a standard university course. Let me repeat that. Drama school training is not the same as a standard university course. Now, my older brother went to Edinburgh University and he studied geography, I think began 1 or 2 years before I went to drama school. And his standard week would be a couple of lectures, he would do lots of independent reading, independent study, he might go to like a little group workshop class, chitty chat thing. He also had a part-time job that he was holding down at a kitchen in a restaurant, and then he would spend the rest of the time sleeping. Total contact hours for university, roughly 10 per week. And again, gearing up for exams and writing dissertations and papers and blah, 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 all of that. Drama school is a different beast. My standard week at drama school, my standard day at drama school would be getting to the studios half an hour early before warm-up began. Warm-up began around 9 o'clock, so I was there for 8:30, doing my own half-hour warm-up. Then you would have another half-hour warm-up. Then you would do a full day of practical classes, movement, voice, acting classes, dance classes, stage combat classes, tumbling classes, text analysis, rehearsals, this, that, and the bloody next thing. You'd have an hour break at some point, and then you'd do it again all afternoon. You'd probably finish around 6 o'clock, 6:30. Then you'd go home, you'd stuff some food into your face, then you would start learning lines, or doing research on a play, or reading a play, or finding some material, finding a song, rehearsing the song, rehearsing with other people, figuring out what you're doing for the next day. Maybe you're rehearsing a dance, or doing this, or doing that. At some point you're going to collapse in your bed, and then you're going to do it all over again. So a standard week, your contact hours for drama school range around about 35 to 40 contact hours. That's a lot. It's boot camp. Along with the fact that in order to pass your modules, in order to pass the year, to progress on to second year, therefore third year, and then get your degree, you have to retain at least a 90% attendance rate. You can't take days off. And unlike my brother, who lived at home at the time, so he wasn't paying bills and he wasn't paying rent, I was living in a flat in London, very expensive city. Unlike my brother, he was doing independent study from home and wasn't doing a lot of going in for lectures, maybe going in on the train to Edinburgh twice a week, where I was going back and forth every single day. So I was paying for transport, public transport, and he was able to hold down a part-time job because he didn't have a lot of contact hours. So he actually had some income. I had no time to sleep. I had no time to even do laundry, let alone hold down a part-time job. Guess who was able to sustain themselves out of me and my brother more successfully during our university years? Financially, drama school training is tough because you don't have a lot of time to yourself. So ask yourself the question, how am I going to sustain myself financially whilst I'm training? Am I able to have a part-time job in order to sustain myself? Are the contact hours going to allow for that? And by allow, do I mean, am I just going to be working around the clock in order to earn money, and therefore I'm going to make myself sick because I have no rest time? And also, would I be worrying so much about my finances that I can't actually concentrate on my training or at work, and again, I'm going to make myself sick because of it? Are you going to be worried about paying for things? It's a factor to bear in mind. Another question to ask yourself, am I just here to see what happens? Now look, you cannot half-arse drama school training. Either you're all the way in or you're all the way out. Because there isn't like a little kiddie paddling pool where you can go and just like dip your toe and see if the water's warm. Drama school training is like being thrown in the deep end where you cannot touch the floor and it's freezing cold. Maybe there's sharks, we don't know. No, there's probably not sharks, it's fine. But in order to keep yourself buoyant, you kind of need to know how to swim, and you kind of need to enjoy the whole process of swimming. It is an all or nothing situation. So if you're just going into 3 or 4 years worth of a drama school BA thinking, oh, I'm just going to see where this goes, then you are going to get a rude awakening, because you're going to be training alongside people who are actually dedicated, who actually have their ducks in a row and know that this is exactly what they want to do. Training is a step up in terms of the demand on you that you have to be all or nothing. Because if you're not, you're going to do one of two things. The first is that you're just going to drop out, which is a big waste of time on your part, and potentially a precious waste of some student loan, and potentially a waste of an academic year, depending on how far through the academic year you get. Or you can persevere through the training, knowing full well that you're not 100% committed to it. You're going to see it as a chore, you're going to start to begrudge it, and potentially begrudge the other people around you. They will potentially begrudge you because you're not as dedicated as you should be, and everyone's just going to be incredibly frustrated. You're going to get to the end of 3 or 4 years, and then find out that it was a waste of time anyway. So better to ask yourself before you even start applying, could I be doing something better? Could I be doing something else that will enrich my life so much more? Or better still, if you haven't quite made up your mind, do a short course, do part-time courses, go to a workshop, do something that doesn't have such a massive demand on your time, on your resources, on your finances, all of that, because if you're just figuring it out along the way, that's a heavy price to pay if you are wrong. Think about your physical health, your fitness, and your stamina. Now, what am I not saying here? What I'm not saying is that you need to be an Olympian in order to go to drama school. And I'm also not saying that if you have a physical disability or an illness or something that is inhibiting you physically, that you cannot train. I am not saying those things. But what I am saying is that to train to be an actor, it is physically demanding and physically draining. Long hours, lots of time spent on your feet, and very little rest. And if you cannot rise to that challenge, then you will struggle. Now, I have had students in drama schools getting sick, getting injured, and falling asleep in the middle of classes because they do not have stamina. They weren't in a physical condition that they needed to be in order to actually honor the training in that moment. Now again, I'm not saying you need to be an Olympian. You don't need to be in kind of like Navy SEAL type physical fitness. It is getting a regular, healthy sleeping pattern, taking care of your diet, stretching regularly, engaging in sport and fitness in your everyday routine that is actually going to help support you physically whilst you train. So don't just think, oh, I'll be fine and I'll sleep when I'm dead, and you know, I've got 2 knees, it's fine, I don't need one. Like, you need to take care of your body, and part of that, knowing that you're going to be going into an environment that is physically demanding, you need to have a body that is actually going to help you in that situation. Mental stability and stamina, work ethic, determination, how you handle stress, how you handle pressure, how you handle disappointment, juggling a workload, living away from home, prolonged concentration, not taking things personally, being challenged and corrected and pushed, and not taking those things as a personal attack. Working in close quarters, cooperating with people that you might not necessarily like, remaining disciplined and remaining professional, maintaining an open and personable and cooperative energy, and not being blinded by rage and jealousy if somebody gets cast in the role that you wanted. And doing that day in, day out. Mental readiness to train is probably the most important component, and it's the most important question to ask yourself before you begin training. Because if you do not have those things, you will struggle. There is a fantastic book that everybody should be reading, and it is called Grit by Dr. Angela Duckworth. And she talks about the recruits that get through something called Hell Week, and that is within Navy SEAL training. It is arguably one of the most physically and mentally demanding, most rigorous training programs in the world. Now, the interesting thing is that the evidence shows that the people who are of the peak physical fitness are not necessarily the ones that will make it through Hell Week. The defining factor, the actual thing that shows that people will make it through is their mental grit, their determination, and their mental dexterity. It's the recruits that have scored highly in grit and delayed gratification. They were able and willing to work through challenges, work through pressure, and to work through uncomfortable growth patterns in order that they got what they wanted. So I want you to start thinking about drama school training like Navy SEAL training, just with dance and Shakespeare and costumes. Knowledge of training and of the industry. Now, when I sit on audition panels, I always know when someone is not ready to train because they have not read plays outside of potentially the plays that they've brought their monologues from. Even that's a bit of a stretch. And they've not gone to the theatre. They couldn't name 2 or 3 theatres. They haven't actually got curious and invested in the industry that they wish to go into, apparently. Because the thing is, it all comes down to passion and inspiration. If you are not fired up and excited by the prospect of doing this project or that play or working with this person or going out and doing this, and if you're not fired up by any of that, once you get into training and you come up against struggle and things start to get tough, that's the thing that we rely on. We rely on our big why. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to be making this kind of work. I'm doing this because I love the challenge and I want to actually grow. If you're going into it purely to want validation but have no understanding about the industry that you're going into, as opposed to actually wanting to grow, you can see it a mile away and we go, you're not ready. You're not ready because you're not seeing anything outside of yourself into the industry and into the community, into the people that you're actually going to be working alongside. It's all about you, you're naive, and you're not ready to train. So really ask yourself the question, is this an industry I want to be doing? Or is it just, I get a bit of a buzz when I go on stage? So there you go. There are a few things to start thinking about, to question yourself, am I ready to train? And the thing is, if the answer is yes, great. Go and train, go and audition, go and get the places, and go off and create the career that you want. If the answer is, ooh, not quite, that is okay too. Seriously, it really, really is. Then you know what you want to work towards, you know how to get yourself ready, and you know what you're working towards for the following year, or the year after, or the year after that. Because at the end of the day, you're never gonna miss a ship, you're never gonna miss a boat, because the drama schools will always be there. There's always a following year. There's always a new year group that they need to find people for. And if the answer is actually a truthful, no, this isn't a path for me, then fuck me, well done. To actually be able to sit with yourself and question yourself and then come up with the answer, no, this does not serve me, that's amazing. That is amazing, and you should be really, really proud of yourself for doing that. Because maybe it's not acting, maybe it is this industry, but maybe it's just not actor training, and that's okay. There are so many other things that you can be doing, and once you get into alignment with what is actually going to serve you, you actually got to do something that's going to make you happy, instead of going into a path that you know is not going to fulfill you. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you found some worth in this, and I hope that you sit with yourself and actually question yourself a little bit so that you're making mindful, deliberate choices with intention. But as always, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you think that this video is going to benefit somebody else in your life, please send it to them. Please spread the word, because then I actually get to reach more people, make more of these videos, and then we get to make the world a better place. Yay. But until next time,